Yeah.
Welcome, viewers and listeners, to another episode of the Afro Gamer Podcast. Today, we have a special guest in our midst. He is the CEO of Watchmen Esports in Kenya, Africa. Viewers and listeners, welcome Suhail Woods.
Thank you very much to everyone who's tuning in, and I'm looking forward to the conversation with you, Ife.
Yeah. Thank you very much for joining us. It's been a long time coming since I heard the
Yeah.
Watchmen and how ruthless they are, because that is what everyone keeps saying. If a team says, "Oh, the team we're playing
It's
is
been it's
is
been a lot of years of hard work that has resulted in that.
oh wow,
Yeah.
how long has it been for the East for Watchmen Esports from day one till
It
now?
was as early as 2014, so it's been a solid 6 years for us in the industry of esports. And we started on a very small scale with just being a Call of Duty team to now having teams in multiple games, and always up for expanding our teams as the more we go on.
Oh wow, good. That's interesting. 2014.
Yeah,
I don't think a lot of people knew what esports was at that time. Me personally,
yeah,
I don't think I knew. I just knew that there was gaming. I didn't know that
yeah.
esports existed
Um,
in that
I
way.
think I think it is the same case with most people, especially in Kenya. There was already gaming tournaments present, but they were gaming tournaments and not esports tournament because they're completely different things. Because esports is a spectator sport,
Mm-hmm.
and um, people need to understand that you can only call it esports if there's an audience watching it and there's people following you and things like that. So at the start, I was watching teams from America, such as Optic Gaming or FaZe Esports as well, and I'd see what they're doing in terms of their Call of Duty, how they'd be streaming their games, and I asked myself, why not do the exact same thing here in Kenya? So I met with lots of the people who are already in the industry of gaming in general, and what we did from there is I tried to introduce the idea of having spectators not only in the venue but also online and having an
Online.
ability to watch back gaming tournaments.
Oh, interesting, because
Yeah,
I think what I've noticed is esports in Africa as a whole,
yeah,
um, an audience is the issue, in my opinion.
yeah,
There's a lot of gaming, and like you mentioned, you
yeah.
know, the difference between gaming and esports is esports there is an audience, and we have had that problem with more of offline. I get with online. I'm sorry, in terms of
Hmm.
audience.
Yeah.
Um, I think let's track back a little bit. How did Suhail Woods get into gaming?
I think it was when I was really young. An uncle of mine had a PlayStation 1, and every time we'd go over to their house, I would just be sitting in front of the console asking if I can play. And back in the day, it was Gran Turismo, which I first
Mm,
started playing, and then there was Crash Bandicoot and FIFA. It was the very early titles of FIFA where you can see it's come a long way.
mm-hmm.
And as that went on, I started saving up my own money as a young boy to buy myself a Game Boy.
Mm.
And then I saved for a long time, and then I was still very far away, and thankfully my parents ended up helping me getting the Game Boy. And ever since, it's just been consoles and gaming that I'm interested in. Um, as a PS2 came out, PS3 is when I started getting into the Call of Duty titles, and from there it was just full on excitement.
I know earlier on you told us, the history of Watchmen Esports. For those who will be watching us and listening, tell us what is
Yeah,
actually Watchmen Esports, because the first thing,
yeah,
when your stories go far and wide in Africa,
yeah,
we just know you as a ruthless team. We
yeah,
don't know how many games you have teams
yeah,
in. We don't know,
yeah,
the roster. We just know once anyone says,
yeah.
"Oh, I'm playing Watchmen Esports," people say, I've seen comments like, "The Lord be with you," as in that how the stories have gone.
That's interesting to hear. But yeah, so we started off as three, two other like best friends of mine. We were just playing the game together, and on Call of Duty, um, there's this part of it that has like a competitive feature.
Hmm.
So we started playing together. We had more friends joining us, and we decided, let's just call ourselves something. We didn't know anything. We didn't know what to call ourselves. And previously, 2 months before that, we were playing pro clubs together. Pro clubs is a feature on FIFA,
FIFA. Hmm.
and we used to call ourselves the security guards. And then, as we were building a brand, we thought to ourselves, we can't call ourselves that. So we went
That's
to the
funny.
next best things while still staying authentic to our name. We didn't want to necessarily go for something completely random that sounds cool or something, just something very non-authentic. We decided let's just stick to who we are, and from there we had more of our friends joining us, and then we started competing in Call of Duty, started playing against South African teams in our very early stages.
Hmm.
um, and then we started asking friends of friends to play with us, and then from then we created a YouTube channel. Now on the YouTube channel, the first video we ever uploaded happened to trend on different Facebook pages just because of how good these clips were. It was different clips of us playing. We tried to edit it the best way we can. We posted it, and then from there we were like, "This we might be onto something here." And then as soon as that first video basically blew up, we had the motivation. We just said, "Let's just make this as professional as we can, and let's go away from being just a clan of friends, a Call of Duty clan, to now being an actual organization." And as time went on, we realized that we need to be playing more than one game in order to be considered an esports organization. Otherwise, we're just going to be a Call of Duty team. So as new titles kept on coming out, there was titles such as Fortnite, FIFA. We had the previous FIFA players playing for us. Now we're playing games such as Tekken, Mortal Kombat, uh, and yeah, we want to keep on growing as time goes on. We're extremely motivated as an organization. Me and the two other founders, Hirsi and Tej, we're very motivated to just keep on going to be the best we can, not only in Africa but even try compete to be one of the best in the world. And that has always been our motivation. It's what keeps us waking up every day
Okay.
and pushing out the content.
Okay, good. We have a comment here. Hamza, thank you for joining us. He asked the question you just addressed. He said, "How did you come up with the Watchmen?" And
Yeah.
you already just addressed that. So,
It's a very
um,
funny story, but we stick to our authenticity.
yes, yeah. So you're an okay. You're an African team first. If the world
Yeah,
looks at you and they narrow it down to Kenya, how
yeah.
would you rate esports in Africa as a whole? Over 10
Um,
now. Let me give you a score limit over 10. How would you rate Africa? Because you have been there since 2014 till now. So you've been able to
yeah,
see, the evolvements and how
yeah,
things have changed till present day. How
yeah.
would you score?
Well, because I was part of the people that have seen this industry grow in Kenya from the very beginning, working with people who are now called Pro Series Gaming and all these different teams. before we were a solid 1 out of 10. We didn't know what we were doing, and this was at the very start. And just to see how far we've become in making this a proper spectator sport, and a big cinemas and big events where there's people and there's crowd cheering. I think we've gone very far, and I think as a person who always supports Kenyan esports, I'd say we are 7 out of 10. I always leave room for improvement. I'm a perfectionist myself, so I always see that there's room for improvement. I
Okay,
don't
so
like to bend. Yeah,
is that score for Africa as a whole or for Kenya now?
I think Africa as a whole. I think we
Okay,
can
so
still build a better relationship with our audience.
so let me give you a plot twist.
Yeah,
Let's take out South Africa. Let's take out Northern Africa.
yeah.
How would you score the rest of Africa over time?
I'd say 6 out of 10. We just lower it a slight bit because of, if you actually see the investments that have been taking place in Kenya, for example,
Mm,
with my good friends at Pro Series Gaming, they've made strides that are very big in terms of having a professional setup. There's TriCasters used for esports, where before it was just someone's phone camera.
hmm
There's multi cameras, um, and so I'd say there's been lots of development, and we can only get better from here. We'll fill in that remaining 4 points very soon.
I think you're being generous because most people who have come, most people who have come on this podcast have given Africa and their country lower than 5.
Yeah.
And they say so because we're still at the gaming stage and we really haven't taken advantage of esports as a whole. That's their reason for the score.
Um, you see, I'd disagree. My question to you is, I know you're the one supposed to be asking me questions, but I think I'll
No, that's
throw one at
fine.
you.
Yeah, sure.
um, for you, what do you think makes a country good for esports? What do you think is a perfect? What's the 10 out of 10 for you?
I don't think there's any 10 out of 10, but to give it between 7 and 9, in my opinion,
Yeah,
you have to be able to bring in all the youths. So you are saying 9 out of every 10 youth is gaming and creating content.
yeah,
They may not necessarily be professional gamers, but for example, I always use this example. Even people who play iMessage games, if they
yeah.
can go ahead and create content from that, then I
Hmm.
think if there's a perfect ecosystem for that, where it cuts across the professional players who play Tekken, who play FIFA, who play Call of
Yeah,
Duty, and it trickles down to even the person who plays Candy Crush with her community, with her friends, and
yeah,
we're creating content out of that. Brands are able to jump in and notice that there's a community for this, and they are using it as a marketing tool. Then I
yeah,
think that ecosystem should get between 7 and 9.
yeah. You see, how I see it is, for a country to be labeled as good at esports, there's certain factors that need to be present. And the first and most important factor is people playing the game professionally. In terms of their skill level being very high, they know the game in and out. It's beyond the game mechanics. That's literally just in their, like, it's already in their head. It doesn't matter anymore. It's more of tactics. It's more of
Mhm.
mental esports. Second of all, there needs to be a high amount of spectators and audience and people who enjoy the content just as people enjoy any other sport like football or rugby or anything like that. Third of all, there has to be high professionalism in terms of production in these high profile competitions. There needs to be different cameras. There needs to be cameras on the people playing the game itself. There needs to be a very high level of interaction with the people playing as well. Another thing is there needs to be people who know what they're doing in terms of commentary. Just like football, just like rugby, the commentator fills the gap with the person who doesn't know that much about a sport, um, to the actual scene itself. And the other thing is earning a certain amount of money that can make you feel comfortable for a set amount of time and pay off a few bills and improve your living standard. So, based on all those factors, those are factors that are already present in Kenya. It's just people may overlook it. People have a negative outlook and always look for more in terms of the industry, just because they haven't reached that far in terms of people outside the scene doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing anything wrong. They just need to keep on working hard in terms of building their audience. And all these things were present, for example, in the last Call of Duty tournament at Pro Series Gaming. And these all, with all these factors considered, if you compare it to even the COD World League or the Fortnite tournaments, the only thing missing that was present, that wasn't there at present at the Pro Series Gaming tournament, was thousands and millions of spectators. Everything else was done quite professionally.
Mm, mm,
And yeah, that's how I look at it, and that's why we just need to keep our consistency. Consistency is the highest factor in bringing success to any company, any sport, any startup. It's as soon as a person is consistent with what they're doing and have a high level of quality, you can see the scene grow. So I'm very optimistic of how far us Kenyans can go and us Africans as a whole can go in terms of esports. Very soon, we can be the ones who are leading esports in the world.
I like that. Hamza said, "What do you think about the current scene in Kenya and about what Blaze is doing with esports, and how do you rate it in comparison to the South African scenes right now? And what do you think we can do to improve this scene?"
I think what these big, I'm gonna say it as honestly as possible. I think what these big companies need to do is they need to interact with people that are very, if they're saying that they want to get into esports, they need to interact with people that are esports involved, not necessarily big. If you can be a big gamer, but you're not a big esports player, those are two different things. You
Two
can be a very
different.
big,
Yeah, true.
you can be an entertainer who plays a game, and then there's a person who does it for a living, does it for a living by winning in his games and earning money from it.
Mm,
We're
mm,
looking at two different types of people. I think they just needs to be a bridge between these big companies, and that bridge needs to just be titled "Understanding what actually esports is."
esports is. Yeah, but the thing now is, aside, for example, Watchmen Esports, South Africans, North African, majority of the rest of Africa are really
Yeah,
still just gaming.
yeah,
They
yeah,
are not into esports. You see people saying, "Oh, we are a team," but and that is why we'll talk about team management. They call
yeah,
themselves teams, but the things that you've mentioned, the structure of a team, they do not have it.
yeah,
You see many saying, "Oh, we're a team," but they only come together when there's a tournament. That's one,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that is not a team in my
That's not a
opinion.
team. Yeah, those are people meeting up for events.
Exactly, and you see people who say, "Oh, I'm a team owner. I have a team." There is no contract.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure, you understand. So I think you should enlighten us, because you've been in that business of esports. You know the business of esports. What
yeah,
what does it entail to own a team and manage a team? Because many do not know. They just give you like how we say it in some parts of Africa, mouth value. They don't say, "Oh, we're a team." Where is the contract?
yeah, 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 yeah,
There's no
yeah,
contract. There is no wage bill.
yeah,
There is
yeah,
no.
yeah.
I was having
There's no
yeah,
company registration. Mm.
exactly. I was having a conversation, And I said, you're a
Yeah.
team. Is there a contract? No. Who is the team owner? Is there any incentive?
Yeah.
Even if I understand esports is trying to go in Africa, there should be incentives like, okay, you know what? Until we
Mm.
start making money or getting that whole brand out there, you should be able to pay for your players data, their in-game purchases. The company should incur that, not saying we're a
Yeah.
team and the players
Yeah.
are catering for themselves. So I think we need to you need to kind of give us a crash course for Africans to understand what team management entails. Hello. Oh wow. uh, Suhail, are you with us? Okay, Navi Esports, thank you for watching. I guess we would wait till Suhail comes back into the feed. MCGZ, if I'm pronouncing it, thank you for watching also. Let's just give it a few seconds. I believe he will reconnect. Voltix, thank you for watching also. Thank you for also commenting. And what do you guys think about esports in Africa as a whole? Let's have a conversation.
Hello. Sorry for that interruption.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. I think I'm having problems with my internet today. So yeah, but back to where we were.
Yes, I said you should give us a crash course on what team
Yeah,
management.
yeah. So for me myself, it's not like I have studied esports. It's not like I've studied business management. I'm still a student at university, my final year of university. But based on the experience I've had personally, you need to structure it just like how any company is structured, any team is structured. You look at the models of football clubs, you look at the models of any other professional sports, and you need to have organizational structure in terms of who speaks to who. You need to have team managers for each individual game, someone who everyone can report to. And in terms of structure, even small things like social media, there has to be someone who's focusing on social media specifically. Um, there needs to be people focusing on broadcasting. These are all different roles that we have in our organization, and you need to treat it just like how anybody else would treat it in terms of a business, in the fact that you need to register it as a company. If you're getting serious with it, you need to have your entire team training quite often. Like I said, just like any other sport, you wouldn't see a team like Manchester United or Barcelona or a team like that just showing up on game days after doing their own thing the whole week. There's lots of strategy to it, and they build that strategy together as a team with their manager, with their captain. There's different ways you can structure your organization, but you need to always keep it as professional as possible, because if you show up to a LAN event, for example, with no strategy, no training, and anything like that, then it can fall. If you see how much work the Watchmen players put in before a big tournament, it's crazy. Because I'd ask them in the morning, like, what are you guys up to? They'll say, oh, we're working on map strategies. 12 hours later, I'll message the same group saying, are you guys done yet? And I'd get this as a different response saying, we're working on this type of strategy now. And these are people working at a very professional level. Meanwhile, from the other side of the players, you need to work on yourself as a brand. If you're playing against another team, you need to treat it like how an actual sports football sport, like a football team would be treating it. They'd be advertising it. They'd be saying, "Come watch, come support. What do you think the score will be?" And even after these games, you post the content so people can watch back and learn more about your team. And yeah, let me just see the comments here regarding what I was saying. I think the team management should take from the players. I think that team management should take from players' contract. Yeah, so like with us, most of our players are contracted in the sense that they know what is expected of them in that contract, and in that same contract, they have an understanding what they can get from you as an organization, just so there's
Mhm.
a mutual understanding between the two of you. Like if I tell them you have to be training on Monday, Friday, Saturday, if I say it casually, you can tell me, oh, I don't feel like playing on Friday. I just don't feel like it. But then if it's contracted in the organization, you can tell him, but look at your contract. It says that you have a fixture on Saturday, and you sign saying that you'll be available for most fixtures. And I'm not saying pressure your players and saying that you have to do it. If there's obviously something that has come up, you need to be lenient with them. You need to have a very good relationship with your team, um, where you treat them as nice as possible, but at the same time, you need to be keeping tabs with what you have agreed with the player being part of the organization.
Mm, Let me read a few more comments. Thank you for that, Suhail. Hamza said, I think one of the main problems right now is the community. You see many
Yeah.
people complaining about the current scene, but they don't
Hmm.
even come to support each other. Well, that is a huge problem. I don't know if Kenya
Yeah.
has that, but it's a huge problem in Africa as a whole. Game
Um.
Gamers, let me just read the comments so we don't have a backlog.
Yeah. Sure.
Gamers
Sure.
Esports Club said hello from Gabon. Navi TV, thank you
Yeah.
for joining us. He said, I think we should try to do much around content so that brands out there get the perspective of how gaming and esports is here in Africa. That's something Navi is diving deep into. Ayo said, I think that, okay, you read that. He said, I think that team management should take from players' contract. The contract is usually not formalized in Africa. And Hamza went on to say the main problem are the communities, which a lack of support, you lack the tournaments and amount of money you can spend on a tournament, unlike the first world countries.
Yeah. So I think I'll start off with what we were saying is how you need to support each other in order for you as a community to grow. And looking back at a few weeks back when we had a collaboration with Navi, we treated it like a fixture, but the whole point of it was to show that a team from Kenya and Uganda can play against each other and have a formal discussion after regarding the scene and just try to combine our communities to be um, together. You can support your teams. You can say my team is the best or my team will beat, but at the same time, you're all loving the same sport.
Same sport, yeah.
So, and most people complain that, oh, I'm not getting enough attention, but at the same time, you need to be kind to other people's content and appreciate it. You message the people making it and say, you know what, you're doing a really good job, keep on going. They can be your biggest rivals, but I think that's just the best way to go about it. If they need advice, you speak to each other, because there's no fun in in having a competitive sport if there's no one to compete against. That's why you have to build each other up, and you bring the communities together by playing games like the one we played against Navi. And let me just read the comments again. The main problems, communities. Yeah, and in terms of the comment by Hamza regarding the lack of support and amount of money and tournament is this this communities in Kenya, I'm not going to talk bad against, because we have come a very long way and we're growing more and more. You need to understand, as a high profile company, if you just hear something on the coming up, let's start off with something completely random. For example, let's move away to remove the example of esports. Me as a person, I don't understand the Rubik's Cube community. I've never heard of proper like competitive events, and I can't just assume and say there's a big community, I'm just going to throw 1,000, 2,000, 300, $3,000. It needs to start with the people involved in this sport, to build it up and to show everyone that this is a professional sport. There's an audience for it, and lots of people are interested in. There's lots of eyes on it. You need to prove it to people. You can't just say it. When you say things, it doesn't mean anything. But if you show people the practicality of it, that it can be a sport, you show clips of people, like at the latest Pro Series gaming tournament, how people are shouting, screaming, cheering, something crazy happens, you see people holding their heads, and this is what we need to show. This is what we need to show them. We can't just use our mouths all the time. But I think we're heading in a good direction. We're slowly starting to see big companies like Safaricom come into the esports scene. People didn't think that would be possible to even find a restaurant interested back in the day. But now
Mm,
we're having these big companies that are quite big worldwide interested in it. And you just have to keep on, like I said early on, it's just having that consistency to keep on working hard, keep on channeling out content, and eventually you'll have big audiences supporting you, big communities rooting for your team, and eventually money coming for your own team. And it's just these step by step. If we all sit back and just complain, nobody's looking at us. Nothing's gonna happen. We're just gonna stay in a stalemate. But if we're all consistently working hard, I'm 100% sure that people can end up getting a living out of this, as that's one of my biggest goals as
mm.
an organization, creating a different avenue for people to make incomes.
Ab-
I
ab-
dream of a day that esports in Kenya will be able to pay someone's rent, will be able to pay for someone's cars and things like that. And I'm not
mm.
just saying this for me; I mean it for the entire community.
Community. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's getting to that. I think after music, movies, I think esports is next, in my opinion,
yeah,
for Kenya,
yeah,
for Africa as a whole. And
yeah,
it goes deeper for African youths because we can, if we get it right, we can actually use it to solve a lot of socioeconomic problems for the continent.
definitely,
That's what I feel.
definitely.
You went back. Let me track back a little bit. You did mention, when Hamza was talking about lack of support for content, and you mentioned something which someone else, the a pro streamer, said. He was like, "Don't just put out your own content and expect people to support. Also,
Yeah,
network, go to other people's channels,
yeah.
encourage them, support them, and that is
You can
how
do collaborations as well.
Exactly, and I, when you said that now, it just occurred to me that I think that's what a lot of people do. They just send you a link to watch, but
Yeah,
they are not going to watch other people. They just want people. So I see reason with that. Um,
yeah,
Ayo said, I'll read a host of comments and you can address them one by one. He said, how
yeah,
about esports education? This is lacking. That is a big problem, in my opinion.
yeah.
Salucci TV said, I actually slightly disagree with Hamza. I do feel the community is very reserved when it comes to esports in Kenya, but I also believe that we are on the edge of pushing this to be very explosive. With the right advertising and
Hmm.
publicity, it can reach a lot of people and grow awareness. Navi
Yeah,
Navi TV said, stakeholders in esports are the ones responsible for building the community, and I suggest we focus on solution and drift away from the issues like no market, lags, and all that, and create content. I am way better said, Salucci, I am mainly talking about the people who complain about the same and don't actively try to help improve it or think crying about it will fix it. Oh, he said, okay, that's Hamza also. I think he changed that.
Yeah.
Navi said, show people that esports is this can answer your two's question about esports education. Relevant content is the answer. So everything circles back to that question of esports education.
Yeah. Um, when it comes to esports education, I've always said this to different people in the community, and I've proposed it to a few people, and I've got mixed reactions all around. I've always said, let's just have an event where we describe what esports is to the people who don't understand what it is, and these include the big corporations. If we come together as certain experienced people who understand what esports is, keep in mind, I'm not saying gaming. Those are two different sectors. Keep If you put people together who understand what esports is, and even if there's a conference where we can highlight different things and we can get publicity from it from a media house, this will answer so many questions because so many people are not aware of the small things in esports. They don't understand. They just understand this. What they most people understand it is just holding a PlayStation controller and playing, and
Mhm.
that's not what it is. There's much more to it. People train every day in terms of bettering their chances in making money, in bettering their skill level. And if something in the future can happen where, as different communities throughout Africa come together and have a press conference or something of the sort where we discuss what is esports, I think it'll answer a lot of questions that people do have, and it'll fix this confusion that we're having all the time. And it's something that I've been working towards answering in the Kenyan community as a whole. When I realized that not many people were interested in having something like a press conference, I've been working towards making something like a documentary regarding esports in Kenya and how it started to where it is, so people understand what it actually is as a sport.
Hmm. Okay, so Suhail, let me ask you this.
Yeah,
Africa is a peculiar region. Anyone I speak to is, that's
yeah,
what I start with. We
hmm
already understand there's a disconnect between gaming and esports. We need to,
hmm
educate people. I understand. But in this case, how do you bring people into the fold? Because, like we said, there's a lot of gaming. We know that there's a lot of gaming in terms of the PlayStation, the Call of Duty
yeah,
mobiles, the PUBG mobile. But how do
yeah,
we bring, let's say, I'll just create a persona now. How do you bring Leslie, who is a
yeah,
24-year-old college student in Kenya, who plays, for example, she plays a random game on her phone? How do you bring her into the fold? Because now, just like the Bible,
hmm
we are not looking for the sheep that we have. We need to catch the sheep that is lost. So the
hmm
gaming community that have no clue about the
hmm
PlayStation, how you can become from a gamer to an esports athlete, they have no idea.
hmm
How do we bring them into the fold? Because I think we keep talking about gaming, esports, and we're totally forgetting about a whole new category that have no idea of what is going on.
yeah. That's an interesting question. Um, I think how we need to do it is we need to look at it from their side of things. See, I can easily say, "Oh, I understand what esports is. It's very easy," and so on and so forth. And we need to track back and think about where we began as people who didn't understand esports and see what is it that we didn't understand. And like for me, being very young, I didn't understand how people can make money out of it beyond prize money. That just didn't add up. But then you look at it and you break down, like like I said before, the fundamentals of what esports is. You have to game, and then when you're gaming, you become good at a game. Become good at a game, people watch you playing the game. After that, you compete, and while you're competing, there's an audience watching you playing this game for money, or for even if there's no money, like just competing. And then if you get to a high level, you can start earning high amounts of money. And it's just breaking down those simple steps in as simple language as we can, before adding all the big phrases that people may misunderstand um, the entire situation. So I think it's just breaking down the entire scene step by step, going to baby steps into understanding what esports is, and how you need to have a spectators, and you need to compete and take it more seriously than just casually playing.
Mm.
And I hope that answers your question.
It has, because there's a lot of disconnect, and I've been able
Mm,
to see a lot of young people who play games but have no clue, and you just
yeah,
answered the question as to breaking it down, telling them what it is and how they can advance to become athletes.
yeah.
Um, we have Kwesi Hayford. Thank you for tuning in. He says hello. Um,
Hello.
Citizens Robber is also here. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Hamza also said, "What do you think about people moving from the Kenyan scene to the South African scene in certain games such as CS:GO?" He also said, "Okay, let me go." He said, "People still see esports as a joke, and I have experienced this firsthand at universities. When I tell people I would like to move into becoming a professional esports athlete, and it is very difficult trying to explain um, that as a career." I just to address
Mm,
that, I think I'll address that for you. I think
mhm.
I agree with what you suggested as to if it's a summit, if it's a documentary where everyone is together and we clarify things, we identify
Yeah,
where we are as a community, and
yeah.
then we we have a panel with people like you, people like who know the business, to be able to explain and say,
Hmm.
this is esports, this is gaming. For you to
Most
move from
definitely.
for you to move from this stage to this stage, you must have achieved XYZ, so that
Hmm.
we explain to people. I think it's needed that we have a a digital summit of all
Yeah,
stakeholders. If you think you if you call it,
definitely.
yeah, if you think you are a gamer, if you think you are a team, whatever you think you are,
Yeah,
attend the summit. Will get speakers who know the business, um
definitely.
not, forgive me for using this word, not clowns that think,
Yeah,
yeah, that think they know the business of this. But I think
yeah.
we need to work towards that.
Mm,
Let's put aside the tournaments. Let's put the tournaments on hold. Let's put a lot of
yeah.
things on hold, and I think first we should identify where we,
Identify it.
yeah, identify where we are as a community in Africa in terms of esports. Then we will now
Yeah,
say, okay, fine, this is right, this is wrong, and this is how we'll move forward. Let me see more comments. Okay, I guess you can throw in anything you want to
yeah.
throw in.
So, going back on the questions, the questions I'm way better asked. I do think I have a lot of talented players that lack the facilities. This is something that's one of my biggest projects that I'm working on now, is giving players these facilities where they can improve themselves um, beyond their homes, because you can only learn so much off just speaking to someone on the phone. There's a lot more you can do. There's lots of training facilities in the US, for example, where um, you get to learn different things outside your game, such as how fast your reaction time can be, how to improve your reaction time. There's a huge part of esports called mental esports, which basically prepares you for high profile events because you can easily crumble under pressure. You can be the best player in the whole world when you're sitting in your room, but the second you go to an event, you lose composure and you can't keep yourself together. So I think this is one of the biggest things I'm working on at the moment. One of my the main things I'm working on from a day-to-day basis. The people who follow the Watchmen Instagram page, if you look back a few posts, I teased something, and it was the Watchmen Esports Academy, and I all I did was say the title, and the reason for that is there's lots of work I need to put into it. It's not something that will come easy, but my goal is to help the casual gamer transition from being a casual gamer into being an esports athlete. And using that academy, our biggest focus is the youth. If we get the younger players to understand what esports is, they can do so much. If you look at track records of professional esports players in the past, you can see a trend that the younger they are, if they're good at the game they play, they'll have a higher chance of being successful in that sport. Just because, look at Fortnite, for example. The player that won, I don't quite remember how old he was, but he was quite young. He was like 14, 15 years old at most. You look over at FIFA, about 2 seasons ago on FIFA, the player that won the tournament was Tex. He was 16 years old. If people abroad are allowing youth to dominate in games, my question for everyone listening, my question for you, Ife, is why can't we as Africans have 13-year-olds being the best at games? And I think to answer my own question before I ask you to give your opinion on it, um, I think it stems down to not um, um, it's trusting in them. Let me use that for example. People see younger kids and say, "Oh, they can't do anything. It's fine." But you need to understand, kids of that age have insane reaction time, and the way they can learn things is this quick. That's
Mm-hmm.
why you're told to go to school when you're young. That's when your brain can develop skills quite easily. That's why when you're young, you can pick up a language just within 1 or 2 months. So why
Mm-hmm.
can't we do it in esports? And one of my biggest projects in terms of actually seeing how youth can play is my younger brother, my two younger brothers. Those are people I would see every day, and I'd help them in any way I can in order to be better. And seeing my brother, who's 13 years old, come to my room and say, "Oh, I just won $300 on Fortnite." It's just proving my theory
Yeah,
correct.
Terry, yeah.
And as soon as I saw if my brother can do it, I haven't been the best at gaming at any point in my life. I've been good, but I haven't been the best. And um, if my brother who's 13 is finishing in top 150 in the Middle East once or twice every once in a while, out of millions of players, let's focus on the youth. We teach them from now, and in a few months, in a few years, we can have the best players in titles coming from Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I have a very positive outlook to the youth in Africa. And if we can allow them to have this as their jobs and create an industry that's worth millions and billions, why not start now?
Mm-hmm. That's I like that. I totally agree. I think we need to start catching the younger generation. So I think focusing on, high school, the
Yeah.
early stages of the university also. So I think part of
Hmm.
community engagement should be focusing on that in terms of how can we get high school into the program, how
Yeah.
can we get universities
Yeah.
into the program.
Yeah.
Um, Hamza said, let me see. Okay, Hamza was saying, especially in Fortnite scene, I see people hosting 30K KSH tournaments that don't follow the esports format. On top of that, it is only to gain money where the air up to 35K ish per tournament. And Citizens Rubber said it is the same in Nigeria. Organizers host Call of Duty mobile tournaments, and the registration fee covers for the cash prize. And there is some one on top to pocket, and he was pissed about
Um,
that.
I
That would be
mean,
that would be
from
that would be the last question as we round up. It is something that happens a lot that I have noticed.
yeah,
What do you
yeah.
have to say about
I,
that?
I have an opinion on that. At the end of the day, this is someone else who's trying to make money out of doing what they love. Maybe they enjoy hosting tournaments. If we're looking at a big organization, then I'll be just as angry as Robert. But if we're looking at a person who's started up a gaming cafe and he just needs to pay for his expenses of for the electricity of the place, and we need to understand it from every perspective available. You can't just make quick assumptions. If they're making an extra $50 on top, maybe that'll pay for the electricity and that'll make them motivated to have another tournament. And if they're still gonna give out a cash prize, then fair play to them. But if it's a big organization such as, I'm not going to name any names to keep myself out of trouble, but if it's a very big organization, then I'd say it's concerning. But if it's a startup, a gaming cafe, someone who has 100 likes on Facebook, support them. Isn't Like you said, it's all about building. They're part of the community. If they're giving us a place to play our esport, then they're part of the community.
Citizens Robert said the tournament is not a LAN tournament, it's an online tournament.
Yeah. Then again, it can be very stressful. It can be very stressful holding those online tournaments. Like I said, if they're a person with 100 likes, 200 likes, a small startup, there's no harm in supporting them. That's the community. They're part of the ecosystem. If you're still gonna earn a cash prize out of it, they're benefiting you, and they need to benefit themselves. They can't do it for free if it's their startup. Otherwise, where's their motivation gonna come? Not everyone will be fueled by the motivation of the future like I do. I've never been motivated by money in esports, but there's some people that need that motivation in terms of creating businesses such as holding online tournaments. You look at MLG game battles, they're one of the biggest matchup sites in the world, and they still require you to pay entry, and they still earn a certain profit from that.
Profit from it. Okay, I see. That,
Yeah.
that, that makes sense. Quickly, if anyone wants to connect with Watchmen Esports, how can they connect with?
Yeah, so you can go over to Instagram and search up X, the Watchmen, or Watchmen Esports. I'm sure either one will come up. If you want to go on YouTube, see some of the things we've done before, look at our great fixture with Navi Esports or Solemn Display from Ghana recently. Go on to the search Watchmen Esports or X the Watchmen, you'll find it as well. And if you want to speak to me personally, feel free to go onto Instagram and search Suhail Woods. As you can see, Suhail on the screen and Woods like Tiger Woods.
Cool. That's cool analysis. I like that. Yeah, so thank you very much for taking time out to speak to us. For
Thank you.
all our viewers also, thank you. Sorry we could not read everyone's comments because I'm sure we'll be here for the whole day. There's always a lot
Definitely.
there's always a lot to say about esports. Hopefully,
Yeah,
we can always have you back on the chat and speak about how we've been able to, move forward, and
yeah,
hopefully the stakeholders can come together and have a summit to educate everyone. I think
100%.
that is much needed. So everyone, thank you once
100%.
again, and we will see
Thank
you
you
next
so much for
time.
tuning in. Thank you.